Hello everybody and welcome back to Zero Review Stuff. My name is Zero and in today's video I'm going to be giving a pretty messy and all over the place review of You're Welcome, which is the 7th studio album by the pop-punk band A Day to Remember. This album is the follow-up to 2016's Bad Vibrations and is their first release with the highly controversial record label Fueled by Ramen that has signed well-known bands such as All Time Low, Paramore, Panic at the Disco, and of course 21 Pilots. Besides all of those bands signing to the same record label, they all have something else in common. They all went full-on pop after signing to Fueled by Ramen, although All Time Low ditched that trend and went back to their roots with the fantastic Wake Up Sunshine after signing with the record label to either very good or very bad results, but mostly pretty bad. So when A Day to Remember hopped on the roster, everybody was understandably pretty concerned with how they were going to continue their sound, and the release of the first album single, Degenerates, back in 2019 didn't really ease anybody's worries at all. It was different for A Day to Remember. It's very poppy, mainstream friendly, and almost too Imagine Dragons to even be considered an A Day to Remember song. However, despite some pretty unpromising singles, especially Degenerates, I really don't see what the big fuss over this album is all about. It's different for the band, sure, as it does take a more mainstream friendly and watered down approach, but like the title says, it's really not that bad. However, if you go into this album expecting classic anger-infused A Day to Remember with stomach-churning vocals from Jeremy McKinnon and brutal guitar breakdowns with pop-punk/pop-infused choruses, proceed with caution because you will be disappointed. However, you may only be disappointed if you are one of the many people who ignorantly goes into this with a closed mind and ends up not liking pretty much any of the tracks because they don't sound like classic A Day to Remember. And to be fair, if they did, it would just get boring after a while because they're just going to be doing the same thing over and over. So of course they wanted to change it up a bit. And if you go into this album aware of that and are incredibly open to listening to different stuff that you've never heard from them before, I promise you, you most likely will like this album. That's probably why I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. In fact, one of the things I really like about this album is that there's something for everybody on here. If you're a fan of the heavy breakdowns and metalcore themed pop-punk tracks like I know so many of you are, they have those tracks like Last Chance to Dance, Bad Friend, which was one of my top 3 favorite tracks off this album, and even on the second single from this album, Resentment. So you can't really complain about this album not being anything like a typical A Day to Remember album because they do go back to their roots a bit on this album. There's also a lot more pop-punk influenced tracks for those who are fans of the softer side of A Day to Remember, myself included, like Brick Wall and High Diving and even Mindreader, even if it is a more pop synth influenced track. And all those tracks just work so well in my opinion because not only is it mainly the type of style they were always known for, but because they're just not doing the typical raw pop punk sound. They're throwing in some keys and synths. They're throwing in programmed pop beats sometimes, and even some acoustic guitars, and it all works really well to me for the most part. It's not ever going stale. They're changing it up a bit, and adding some unique flavor to the sound that they've always been doing. You can complain that it sounds too mainstream or overproduced, and maybe sometimes it does, but what you cannot deny is that they're not letting the sound go to waste. They're not letting it get stale. They're changing it up and attempting to make it different and more enjoyable. Maybe that type of sound has been done before, but A Day to Remember pulls it off the best in my opinion. Is it Fueled by Ramen's fault? Maybe. But you cannot deny that they're one of the only bands going in the pop direction that actually makes it sound okay and a lot less messy than it needs to be. Except for Paramore, of course, because, come on. My favorite track off this album is one that may surprise you, but it's actually the final single released and the final track off this album, Everything We Need. A lot of people really don't like this track, but it's the track that resonated with me and stuck with me the most. It's a song that's basically saying, hey, this world sucks, but we have each other, and that's really everything we need. Maybe the lyrics aren't all that special, and in fact, they do get a bit forced, I'd say, at times, but the song has such a beautiful message, especially in the chorus, and it's all sung beautifully by lead singer Jeremy McKinnon over the reverberated acoustic guitar. People mainly hate this track because it's a radio-friendly acoustic pop track, but are you really going to sit here and tell me that A Day to Remember hasn't done it before and you guys weren't all over that? Just listen to You Had Me at Hello or the well-known If It Means a Lot to You, and then come back and complain that this track is too poppy for A Day to Remember, because it's not. They've done it before, but yeah. This song is gorgeous in my opinion, and it's such a perfect closer for the album, because throughout this album full of mostly self-loathing and hateful songs, Everything We Need is like that moment of realization at the end of the day that's saying, yeah, I had some hardships throughout the day, but I have you and you have me, and that's everything I need. That's everything we need. None of this really matters because we have each other. It's a sense of relief and gratitude, almost. Last Chance to Dance, Bad Friend is the track for all of those longtime A Day to Remember fans that hate the idea of them changing their sound, because this song is what separates me from you level brutal. Yeah, this song definitely takes me back to albums like Homesick and What Separates Me From You, because those albums had some of their heaviest, hateful, angry songs yet, and I would have definitely thought this song was off one of those albums if I didn't know it was off this one. It has Jeremy's signature and brutal guttural growls over the super distorted and chug guitar as he talks about how this person is basically the world's worst nightmare, and it's such a hateful and angry song that's going to please both old fans and new fans alike, and it definitely pleased me. And also, this is kind of off topic, but I just love the lyric, "Watch you fall! Fall from grace!" It's just, oh, it sounds so great. It was a very unexpected song on an album full of softer songs, and I think it was A Day to Remember's reminder to you that they'll always be classic A Day to Remember at heart, no matter how much they try to convince you otherwise, and no matter how much they try to change their sound. And let's be honest, they probably knew people were going to hate this album, so they at least had to put on one nostalgic song here to distract you from the rest of the album because it's so much different. Of course, though, like many of you probably know, this album isn't perfect, and in fact, there are times when it does feel really forced and unnatural. A lot of the songs suffer from lyrics that just outright suck and sound really weird or stupid, and don't work entirely too well with the message they're trying to go for. For example, Bloodsucker, which is by far the worst song on this album. It's not really as bad or unlistenable as it is tedious or anticlimactic, and the lyrics just aren't very good. Jeremy McKinnon tries to put in some religious vibes in this song, talking about the cross above his head and how it's basically convincing him to make good decisions, even if they hurt him, and then he just doesn't talk about it for the rest of the song. And the rest of the song is literally just him talking about a person that wronged him and led him to a bad state of mind, but in like a really edgy and self-loathing 8th grade emo boy journal kind of way. Like, it sounds like the lyrics in the song are trying way too hard to be edgy and poetic and dark, but they just come off as really forced and corny, and I'm really not into it. I get that the title Bloodsucker is a metaphor for how this person is a leech, and he makes that really clear in the chorus, but it doesn't stop the lyrics from coming off as a desperate attempt to be edgy and poetic. When the lyrics aren't trying to be edgy and poetic, they just come off as really bland and boring, or completely unlike A Day to Remember's whole vibe on this album. F.Y.M, which stands for, wait for it, fuck you money, unfortunately suffers from that problem. It's a very anticlimactic and tedious song like the last one, and really serves no purpose other than being a song that talks about money and how he knows he's going to be getting more of it pretty soon, whether that's because of this album or some other unknown reason. And it's a song that really doesn't help this album prove that it's not just a desperate cash grab. I don't think it is, but others might. And while I do like the fact that the song sounds like the ending of a high school sitcom, it should have been saved for that and not for a spot on this album, in my opinion. Okay, I'm done giving this album crap because it's already gotten enough from other people. Is this album perfect? No. Is it the worst album to date? Maybe, but personally I don't think so. But in my opinion, it's not the dumpster fire people are making it out to be. It's different, enjoyable, and most of it works really well for me. And there are a lot of songs on here that do have high replay value that I definitely do see myself coming back to soon. I'm giving A Day to Remember's highly controversial 7th studio album, You're Welcome, a 7 out of 10. And that's just how I feel. Thank you guys so much for watching my probably going to be incredibly controversial review of You're Welcome by A Day to Remember. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe if you're new, because I post reviews like this every so often. And yeah, until the next one, my name is Zero, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.